that and how I did that. That was just instinct. That was just what my body was telling me to do, and I did it. But now I can look back and I can see exactly why that happened by breaking down the movements before that shot was thrown. So Max cocks his shot. You can see my body goes from an engagement to a, okay, he's engaging me, I'm going more neutral. And then as he starts to throw that leg, my body disengages. I pull out of range for that shot to be an effective blow, and it isn't. And we'll get more into that later, but being able to do that with QuickTime, I think, is the best feature of using QuickTime. So that's why I use it.
Now, worked hard in filming this, obviously. It's not on the tripod.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into that later and why that is so crucial.
Make a comment?
Sorry?
Just from analyzing the video, I use video a lot, I always have. But from analyzing that, when you slow it down, you can see that just as you're starting to turn to cover your area, Max actually starts to pull away the blow probably sooner than it's wide open. So that sort of contributing thing of you being able to cover yourself forced your opponent to pull away. And so even if something's connected there, he's pulling it out of the blow rather than making it go into the blow.
And I think what Duke Thornton's really getting into is, kind of at our higher level of our game, there are so many, I call them microtransactions that happen. And what, might have looked to somebody on the sidelines if he threw a leg and he completely missed, when you start to break that stuff frame by frame, there's stuff that I missed that I don't have the experience to see, and that's a cool thing about this video, is we live quite a distance away, but what he just said to me and what happened, that can all happen online with free tools pretty much right away. And I'll get into some of that collaboration stuff. But video really helps you break down those microtransactions of why that happened, why this didn't happen, and so on and so forth. So with Windows Movie Player, we do have options to go into kind of the slow motion stuff. But for most purposes, it kind of just plays the video. Now, if I wanted to see that shot again, I have to manually click back and go to it. So it gives a good representation of full-time video. And you can go into these play speed settings under enhancements where you can slow it down by half. But you're still stuck with that clicking back in history to get to where you want to see. That's why I really like using the QuickTime player.
What's the increments you can slow it down to? Just in half, or?
Yeah, you can slow it down by half, or you can speed it up by half. So if you want to, try and do your best Duke Sean or Duke Sven impersonation, speed it up to 1.5, and you look like a rock star. Right?
So Arminius,
yeah.
The first one, his sword was so fast that it couldn't quite. You can see the actions and see him pulling back and you stepping back. Is there a program that would slow that enough to see the sword, or is that strictly camera?
Yes. QuickTime, while it looks like it's breaking it down frame by frame, it's actually breaking it down based on the frame rate the video was taken at, divided into tenths, I believe. So you're not getting a true accurate frame by frame. To get into that truly accurate frame by frame, you're going to need really high quality movie editing software that can be available on certain torrent sites.
Sure.
That might be called something like Adobe Premiere that I can't tell you to download or confirm or deny. I'll just tell you that stuff does exist.
Right. And so that would have broken down frame rate to see the sword as well.
Exactly.
But still, if it's going too fast for it to be caught in a full frame, it's still going to look blurry.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's where the camera and the frame rate and all of that is.
Absolutely. And that's why things like the slow motion camera, you're not going to miss anybody's sword. I can even see Sven's sword on that.
It's going to be very good.
Now, do you find that when you're doing the high-speed ones that you need more light, so that it becomes more difficult in a room like this where where it's so dark?
I find the majority of cameras nowadays have auto-adjusting lenses for their light. So light generally isn't an issue unless you're getting into extremely low light conditions. And then you're really just pushing beyond the capabilities of the camera that you're going to buy at a Best Buy or a future shop like that. But lighting is pretty much key to all these situations. But, really, I think I haven't come across a single lighting issue unless it was like a torchlight tournament.
Oh, really? Even for like the really high frame rate stuff and down here, you know, like the 240s and the 420s?
I'd say generally within our sport, we're typically, especially the tournaments or the practices you really want to watch are in situations where there is going to be a highlight. You're not going to see a lot of crown tournament, really high-end fighting at night. So generally speaking, it doesn't become that much of an issue, but certainly it will be if you try and kind of push it.
What's the lighting at our practice? Hard.
So this is the VLC player. So the biggest strength about the VLC player is, like I said, it plays everything. So you can get any kind of file format. And it also actually plays broken video as well. If you're downloading something from a torrent, if you've got maybe a corrupted hard drive, you know, something you want to see and it's got errors in it, it'll still force it to play as opposed to the other programs that won't actually let it play. It does have some playback speeds, much like Windows Movie Maker. You can go slower and slower to try and get it as slow as you want, but you're still going to be stuck with the clicking back to get the repeat on it. So that's why I like using QuickTime. You get those arrow keys for easy navigation.
Are all three of those just players, or maybe cropping ability?
Those are all just players. I think the next thing, does anybody have any questions on the players?
So those players, if you use high def video, can you get it slow enough where you can see that crispness we're looking for?
So when people talk about high def video, that is purely the resolution, not necessarily the frame rate. You can record high def at 30 frames per second, or you can record high def at 120 frames per second.
So you get a really good vision of the blur.
Yeah, exactly. It looks, it's
The
a
blur
sweet
looks
blur,
great.
but yeah. So what you're really looking for is frame rate. And all of these settings are available on your camera. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'd say the easiest and best thing to do is look at the manual. Manual's going to walk you through all of this stuff. If you have any questions, just bounce it off with somebody. So my kind of de facto software for combining movies is Windows Movie Maker. Free software comes with XP, Vista, Windows 7. And what I really use Windows Movie Making for is when I want to combine broken files. So, for example, my fights with Max on Monday. The way we videotape, and I'll get more into this later, is we try and go about a second before the engagement starts. Not necessarily before the first blow will start, but before the fighters are mentally prepared and ready. You know, a lot of times see engagements where guys are, okay, ready, yeah, and then they still stand. Well, I like to get that stuff involved too, because that's a whole mental side, a whole another gameplay that should be involved in the video. What I try not to do is, when the video starts, one guy's like this, halfway through his shot. Or you've got 30 seconds of getting water, talking to the list mistress, blah, blah, blah. Try and get about 5 seconds before we get that engagement point, and about 5 seconds after the engagement point. Which happens, so the result of that is, you know, I fought Max a bunch of times here, and you get 6 different videos. Now, if I want to put this on my YouTube site, it's going to be hard for users to navigate through 6 independent videos. I like to keep things nice and clean, so I put my entire engagement up in one video. So the next thing is going to be, how do I get all this video to combine into one? That's where Windows Movie Maker comes in handy. So,
Do you put breaks in between a movie maker, or you just slam it all together?
I typically slam it all together because if you get those 3-second pauses before and after each engagement, it tends to flow okay. Some people like to do like custom movies for family and friends, where they'll put in a title and credits and, like you said, crop it out and all that kind of stuff. And those are all features that are available. I personally don't use them very often for what we do. This ever loads up.